Arm armor has been talked about forever in the Escape from Tarkov community, but why? We've seen many changes in how bullets shoot through arms over the years, to the point at which I myself had lost track as well. So today we're going to figure out exactly what is going on, with the first most important question being, can arms actually be shot through? One of the reasons why this information kind of got lost was the last patch that we received on arms was the same one that included the Unheard edition. Of course, the unprecedented outcry overshadowed the technical details of this patch, which basically says that the head, the forearm, the shoulder, calf and the thigh hitboxes now have a threshold value of 20. This relates to the penetration value on the cartridges, and it goes on to say that the more penetration that you have, the more damage that will carry from one body part to another, respecting this threshold value. But note here that it only mentions the forearm and not the upper arm, which previously had a penetration value of 50. On testing though, the penetration threshold for the upper arm seems to be exactly the same as it is everywhere else at 20 pen. The two cartridges that I tried under this was 9x18 BZH-T and 5.56 M856. Both of these cartridges have 18 pen and neither of them carried any damage through the arm to the thorax at all, whereas 9x19 PST with 20 pen did. Because we're right on the threshold, naturally this one only sent 11% of its damage through to the body, so presumably any kind of armor would stop this from actually causing damage to your PMC's thorax, but as we scale up the penetration into the 40s and beyond, the amount of damage that gets passed through on the arm into the thorax goes up and up. But even for quote-unquote good rounds like M62 and SIG Hybrid, this is only just over 50%, so quite a lot of the sting has been taken out by going through the arm first. This is quite an important point, and it goes to show why arms end up being such good armor on their own. Of course, you still take damage to your body, but firstly we have to remember that the spillover is only 49% now shooting through a blacked arm. This gives you a 51% damage reduction, which for all but the largest and most powerful calibers is a really meaningful deal. To get a kill through a single arm, we need to take the arm down to 0 HP, so we deal 60 damage first, which leaves 380 on our PMC. This 380 remaining HP is subject to the 51% damage reduction, so we scale this up to 776 HP and then we add back on the 60 that we had to deal originally, which leaves us at 836 HP total. We need a grand total of this number in terms of raw damage to take an opponent down through the arm purely, which is nearly as much as the boss killer, and this is the main reason why there isn't an arm meta in the same way as there is for legs. But of course, the arms are a bit more complicated because often with your weapon held out in front of you, the thorax is directly behind, as we were just showing in the first set of tests. With the damage visibly reducing through the arm, the implication, and indeed as per BSG's blurb itself, is that once a bullet passes through, both the damage and the penetration power degrade together. We can only record the damage because that's the only visible parameter to the client that allows us to record the information about what's going on, but you can see that the penetration power of these bullets is also dramatically reduced as it heads through the arm. This is one of the few places in Tarkov these days where I feel that I don't actually have a great handle on the exact calculations for the resulting penetration through an arm itself, but as we will see from some of the tests, it does appear to be quite dramatic. Let's take M62 and SIG Hybrid against a Class 6 plate with Class 3 soft armor behind, as is pretty much the endgame standard these days. I have shown before that this only takes 5 shots with either of the two weapons to get through and kill the target directly on the thorax, but through the arm this takes 12 shots for SIG Hybrid and 11 shots for M62 respectively. With 72 damage for Hybrid and 79 damage for M62, this comes to raw damages of 864 and 869. Not coincidentally, this is just slightly higher than the 836 raw damage that we calculated a second ago, which needs to be delivered to an opponent to take them down through the arm purely. In this situation, the armor around the thorax is actually getting damaged, and an interesting fact to know is that once Class 6 armor gets down to about 45% of its maximum durability, it has an approximate failure rate of 50% against something like SIG Hybrid with 47 pen. But if it goes through the arm first, it has nowhere near the 47 penetration power that it started with when it was first fired out of the SIG Spear. This means that the Class 6 plate ends up blocking basically every shot, to the point at which the total damage ends up killing you before the low plate durability does. This brings us onto an important point, which is the benefit of having an armor that states that the soft armor follows the front plate around the body and is not independently assigned to the thorax, as is the case with the AACPC. This means that even when the plate fails on that armor, there is class 3 behind even on the sides. This is not the case for those defined with thorax specifically on the soft armor and includes the Gen 4 series, the Zabralo, the Defender, in fact most of the armors in the game. Against high-end rounds, this can make some difference in specific scenarios normally, but once it goes through the arm first and reduces the penetration, this in fact makes the soft armor even more effective. By this point, the bullet has gone through 2 rounds of damage and pen reduction, once through the arm and once through the plate, if it beats it, so by the time that it ends up hitting the soft armor, it's quite possible that it actually might get stopped, even if it had quite a high starting pen. This is much more obvious in the class 5 example, because the point of failure for the plate itself is reached so much more quickly. Using a GAC plate in the AACPC and firing through the arm, M62 took 11 shots to kill again and then 9 on the second attempt. SIG Hybrid took 10 on the first go and 11 on the second. I even used a Zabralo to demonstrate the point here, but all armors with defined thorax soft armor are the same here when used with the same replaceable plates. It fared relatively well against M62, taking 10 shots and then 9, which was about the same as the CPC, but with SIG Hybrid, our first attempt killed the target in 4 shots and the second attempt was only 6. This is an absolutely massive difference and just goes to show that with meta armors like the AACPC, you can in fact be even more tanky from the side when the arms are involved because of this arm, plate and class 3 layer underneath. With a more traditional armor, you are in fact more vulnerable from the side because of this lack of soft armor, meaning that once the plate starts to let bullets in, there's nothing else left to stop it and you die very, very quickly. I do want to make a very quick note here and just mention that the plate that we're talking about through the arm and in the side of the thorax is the front plate. It is not the side plate because that just covers the stomach below. So it's the front plate that is doing the heavy lifting on all of these armors in the new armor system. As the testament to show how powerful this can be, I even ran an experiment with M993, which took 5 hits to take down the player via arm with the class 6 and the class 3 AACPC, which shocked me. There is a range of different outcomes that this can take, but I don't have a good working model for the arm damage reduction, so this may just have been a lucky run, but it does go to show the kind of thing that is possible when using the arms as protection. All of this just left me wondering if we will see the return of the canted meta, as the last time that arms blocked a lot of damage, we saw players using the RK1 canted foregrip and a canted sight on top of the gun. Because this turns the PMC's arms to cover more of the thorax, the theory is that you can increase your own time to kill against players aiming at your center of mass. In a theoretical sense, this has the potential of taking an all thorax kill from 5 shots to 11 shots by putting the arm in the way instead. Either way, these mechanics are some of the features that make PMCs in Tarkov's new armor system feel way more tanky than they did before, which, as I've said previously, is not necessarily a bad thing so long as the top level protection is balanced from a scarcity perspective. If you're looking for more information on why the AACPC is the best armor in patch 14, maybe you're a bit confused with some of the explanations that were in this video, I have a much more detailed explanation in this one, which I'll link above. Otherwise, as usual, a big shout out to all my patrons, and as always, have fun in your raids.